Hi everyone. Today I'm excited because I have Deirdre Breckenridge from Mango Marketing on the call today. And one of the things I always wanted was to find out from other entrepreneurs is how can they make use of market changes and changes in the trends in a specific industry and use that to their advantage. And I felt having Deirdre on the call, because she has had experience in this regards to her business, that she can share that information with us. So Deirdre, go ahead. First of all, introduce yourself to the audience and tell people what is Mango Marketing.
Okay, well, I'm Deirdre Breckenridge, and I am the owner of Mango Marketing. I'm also an author, and I'm a speaker, so I travel all around the country and even overseas talking about communications, public relations, social media. And basically what I do is I've, with my partner, built a communications business, all communications, including social media.
Okay. So you build, with your partner, you guys be focused on, is it PR and public relations and all that?
Well, it's full marketing services. When we started out, we had advertising, creative, web, multimedia, PR, communications. It was really three companies that came together.
Wow. And one thing I always ask entrepreneurs is, like, when you started the business, what was the need you saw that, you felt that you had to meet?
Well, that's such a great question, because when I started my own PR communications business, it's because I knew executives and companies needed public relations, and once they had a taste of PR and understood it, it was very valuable. But not a lot of people really knew that public relations is relationship building and strategic communications. So I felt it was my job. I listened, saw the market needed it, and really blew it out into something.
Okay. So let's go back to the beginning and figure out, how you've gotten, past, from your beginning of you becoming an entrepreneur to where you are right now. So first of all, why did you even become an entrepreneur in the first place?
Oh, well, I don't know. I think it has to do, and it's different for everybody, but it definitely has to do with my personality, passion, commitment, the feeling that I wanted to build something and create energy and excitement for anyone who wanted to come along with me. And that's sort of why I started out. I was always working for somebody else. And what I realized is that I started to run other people's businesses. And once you can run someone else's business from, the finances to the operations to the communications to the sales, that's when you get that feeling of, hey, I can build it myself.
Wow. And give us some insight as to, maybe an example of when you were doing this exact thing you just said for another company, and then you had that click and say, oh, I can do it for myself.
Sure. Well, I was lucky enough, and actually this gentleman was my mentor. I started to get more into pharmaceutical marketing. Okay. So Ed Thwaite owned a consulting business, a pharmaceutical marketing firm, and a small brand public relations firm. So I was working for his three companies, and as I got more involved, and I was, even doing his invoicing to working with his clients to, managing the technology and communicating on behalf of his clients, he started to sort of want to be down the shore more and more. So there he was in the summer saying to me, Deirdre, I'm going to go to the beach, because he had a shore house, and you can stay here and sort of run things. So that's when I turned to my family and said, hey, I'm going to start my own business, and really sort of shocked them in the sense that they thought I was headed toward corporate America, where I took my entrepreneurial passion and spirit and built something myself. So that's sort of how I got started. I had always been in communications. I got my degree in communications, so I have my BA in communications, specializing in public relations, and then, always was agency or in-house for a brand, or when I started working for Ed, I was also getting my MBA. So there I was getting my master's in business administration, learning how to run a business, so it all kind of came together and made sense.
Oh, That's a good story. And so, was it because he was, relaxing? I remember having a holiday while you were doing the work that you felt that's the kind of lifestyle you want to live, and should you go out there and do it yourself, or was it the act of actually running his business for him that got you to the point to say, I want to be an entrepreneur?
Well, it's sort of a little bit of both, because I really liked feeling that I could run something and it was my own ideas and I was creating, and you get a lot of flexibility as an entrepreneur. Having worked within an agency first for years and always working for someone else, it did give me a lot of flexibility. So I thought, wow, if I have this kind of flexibility here, I can only imagine what I could do on my own. And this, the sky's the limit. When you're an entrepreneur, you take, you rise to success or you fall, but it's what you do with it and how much you put into it.
Okay. So now you've decided that, walking down the story, you've decided that you want to start your own business. What next did you do?
Okay, so when I started my own business, I had $500 and a fax machine and a telephone. That was it. I had nothing else. It wasn't like I had so much money or, technology. It was very, very grassroots. And what was nice is that, Ed still worked with me. I started to build up a little clientele. And that's when I met the two co-founders of PFS Market. It was actually PFS New Media at the time. We then became PFS MarketWise. But I was doing public relations and communications for them, for the company that soon acquired my little company called the Breckenridge Group. So the Breckenridge Group was only in existence for a very short time. I had two people working for me. It was at the point where I was deciding, maybe I should get a little bit of space. I'm starting to get some clients. I can see this sort of working out, seeing the big picture, and then boom, before I knew it, Jason and Dennis said to me, hey, you're doing such a great job with our public relations. Yeah. We'd like you to be a part of our company, do the same thing for us, but also do that for our clients as well. Okay. So we joined forces, and that was sort of the start of something even bigger.
So I want to break this down into three chunks because you told me very good points, and I want to break it down so that the listeners can see, how you got from the point where you started a company and you're starting out, you don't even have clients, and getting clients to the point where, this other company you're speaking about felt the need to actually buy your company. So let's go back to the beginning. Now you have the company you started. What steps did you take to actually market to get clients in the first place?
I did a lot of networking. So, for example, little Chamber of Commerce meetings, I thought that they were really important. It's so important to meet with people face to face. I did do a lot of public relations as well. I mean, it was so natural. So I was sending out, whether it was targeting little stories to local or regional business publications, I would, first it started as little news briefs, and then it was bigger stories. So it was a little bit of the PR. I didn't do much advertising. It was a lot of the networking and speaking. I can say that speaking, talking in front of groups, industry associations, that really puts you on a different level. So that's what helped get my business kind of jump-started and going, and that's really what propelled us along the whole time.
Okay, and so when you're in front of these groups and you're speaking to them, how exactly are you coming across? Are you coming across as the expert in PR, or, just give us an example of what kind of the things you were doing at that point?
Well, you can only talk about what your experience is. So I always had great examples and case studies. I was lucky enough to be a part of good public relations from the get-go. So I would always bring my stories and my personality and try to help people, but it was always a thought leadership approach. So, how much thought leadership can you have when you're in maybe your first few years of business? Then you're talking about some really good case studies and how-tos and helpful resources. As you get into 20 plus years, you're definitely on a level of thought leadership and education, and it sort of grows along the way.
Okay. But when you started though, you had not had like a lot of clients then, and so you said you were going out there and meeting these people and having talks with them. So when it came to talking about what you were doing, how were you showing them the work you were doing? Because you're just starting out and you don't have that many clients. So were you going from a perspective of showing them case study of work that's been done for other people that you know, or work? I mean, because you don't have clients. I'm trying to really zone into it because we have people that are starting a business, want to take ideas, how they do it.
Well, for me, I was using examples from when I was working for other companies.
Okay.
So it sort of was a natural way for me to say, when I was in the agency world, this is what we used to do. As a business owner now, I'm focusing, it was very heavy at the time when I think about the start of my career. Media relations was something that, every CEO wanted. They wanted to be on the cover of the Wall Street Journal or in the New York Times or Forbes or Fortune or whatever, Barron's, it could be anything, or on one of the talk shows.
Yeah.
So being that I had gotten a lot of media placements, it was very easy for me to talk to executives about, interviews and how they can raise their profile and come across as thought leaders. And that really helped to sort of get on their level and get to something that, number one, I knew they liked, and number two, they wanted and needed to raise their own profiles.
Okay.
And I did it for myself. So it worked all around.
That's good. And so now we're going into the point where you had this other company, I guess they started out as your client and now decided to buy you. I'm trying to figure out what exactly did they see that you were doing that made them feel the need to have you be part of their team as basically buying your company?
Well, within the first 2 months, and they were authors. I saw tremendous potential with these two founders of PFS New Media. They were both authors for, I guess it was Prentice Hall at the time. It's now Pearson Education. They had written several books on Photoshop and Premiere technology. Yeah. So they were all a lot about the web and online. I saw that as an opportunity. So I immediately got them speaking engagements across the country, national speaking engagements, no less.
Yeah.
They were on the cover of Entrepreneur Startups magazine. So these were media placements and speaking engagements and opportunities that they had never seen the likes of before. So I just brought what I know how to do really well, which was public relations and building relationships with media and conference organizers. I got them to be speaking and some great placements where they got more business. They immediately looked to me and said, wow, you need to be doing this all the time for us. And if we could bring this to our client base, what a valuable addition, what an asset that would be.
And that's the point where they decided, let's just go ahead and just buy you out.
Yeah, let's just do it. Let's do it.
And how did you feel where, you came out from the world of working for somebody else before and wanting to have your own, create your own lane and do it your own stuff. And now there's people trying to offer to buy you, into their system. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, what were you thinking at that point?
They were very much, they had the entrepreneurial spirit too. So I felt like I was in good company. There was a lot of freedom and flexibility even then. So it was really 3 different partners. Each of us had our own businesses. So the 2 founding partners had separate businesses that came together, and then mine was the 3rd business. So because we all kind of owned something, but yet we owned it together, it seemed to work. So for me, it was very exciting. It was sheer opportunity. I had space. I had people. I had technology. There was more of an infrastructure. So it was nice to kind of buy into that.
I can definitely.
And then it was up to me to build that up.
Yeah, I could definitely see it because you guys, the people who were buying into your company were actually entrepreneurs on their own. Right.
Yes.
So, having you all come together, there's this whole synergy going on, as opposed to if it was a bigger company buying you and then you're going into their own red tape and all those different things. It's a whole different...
Right.
So,
it worked out.
Yeah, that's good. And you said something during our pre-interview that really struck me. And what I thought that it was key for us to talk about that during this interview is how you have used market changes and trends in your niche to basically figure out what next in your industry, because that is something that I think that entrepreneurs need to be paying attention to, because in order to stay in business, you need to be able to adapt and move quickly and change towards the trends and be able to see the trends even before they happen. And when you said that during the pre-interview, I said, let me get you on the call. Let's talk about how you've actually used trends in your industry for your business so far.
Well, it's interesting because, I've always listened. I was told, even from a mentor 22 years ago, Deirdre, if you listen, you will do well. And it's true. Our listening to the market actually came in the form of books. That was our response. So between the partners of my agency, whenever we saw the need, we literally wrote a book. My first book was called Cyber Branding, and it came out in 2000 because there was a need for brands to really understand what it meant to take their message online and what to do with that, and how is that different from a brick and mortar. So that's because I was listening. When I wrote the new PR toolkit, that was because I realized that within every industry, brands were trying to figure out what is the best way to build strategies and work with the media online to have better, whether it's public relations or publicity or promotions. So I've always sort of between, you can listen through technology, you can listen through people, you can hear things. We were surveying, we were having focus panels, one-on-ones, always staying very, very close to our clients. And that's actually what propelled me into social media.
Wow.
Was our agency, we always felt like we were ahead of the curve on technology. And I think in a lot of respects we were. We were the first agency to launch the global webcast. It was like a town hall meeting for BASF, which is a huge multinational global corporation. So here we were using technology, using it to help companies. I went into a strategy meeting once with a client of mine that developed load balancers. So we did a lot of technology work, and a load balancer has to do with redundancy. So you want to have sort of when two servers and something that routes the traffic. So when the traffic gets too heavy, it goes to the other server so one doesn't crash. Yeah. That's a load balancer. So we were strategizing on a new balancer that was coming to market, coming up with these great ideas and how we were going to launch it. And we brought our plan into the meeting with the CEO. And after we presented, we thought, wow, we did a great job. And you know what he said to us? He said, yeah, but where's all the new stuff? Uh-oh. That was my kick in the pants right there, because this was back in 2003. Now, I had just put in my book, I guess at the time it was the new PR toolkit, that blogs were coming. Well, you know what? Blogs were there, and so were RSS, and so many things that I needed to jump on. So that right there, listening and understanding there's so much more out there, it always propelled us to be ahead. It always propelled us to write about it, to research it. Because when you write a book, that is hardcore research. And that's what we did. So we always tried to stay on top. I think it's worked.
Definitely. That's a good way of listening to your audience and different things out there. I was trying to also figure out too is you said you use tools to listen, also listen to people. Just so give me examples of how you've used, what kind of tools have you used to actually, see what market changes are out there?
Well, today it's really easy to listen to the market because through social media, you have these great platforms. So you can use automated technology, whether it's Sysomos, Dow Jones has Insight, Burrell's Loose has Engage One-to-One. These platforms give you everything from conversations, so you're monitoring keywords and conversations, to how your consumers are engaging and participating in different communities, how they share sentiment on the market, on your brand, on your competitors. This is such great information. It is so rich. It's almost like a focus panel constantly at your fingertips, where that's what we used to do before. Whenever we wanted really good information, we would hold a focus panel where you get, people in a room and you're behind the glass and you're sort of sitting there, someone is moderating and asking questions and you're taking notes and getting great insight. It's the same thing, except technology moves it into a new realm.
Definitely. So, and so you said you were listening to using tools. Exactly what kind of what are you looking for in terms of what kind of keywords? I'm trying to figure out, because it gets to a point where you have so many things coming at you, and it's like becomes a noise. So how do you pick out and say what is important for you to be paying attention to?
That's a great question, because it is so hard. There's so many keywords when it comes to your business, but we can look at keywords in different ways. I can say that, the keywords for us, of course, are mango marketing, or it's even mango creative juice. It's my name. It's my partner's name. It's things that are related to what we do. So it could be public relations, PR2O, social media. But you also have to think in terms of what is it that your customers are typing into a search engine to find you? What is it that they're searching for? And those are the keywords that you want to use so that you can actually find them and listen to them. So, it's kind of funny. This is a simple exercise, but it might be worth trying it. There's a Google, it's a Google keyword tracker tool. And all you have to do is literally go into Google and put Google keyword tracker tool. Click on it. It tells you to put your website URL in. You put your website URL into like a little space.
Yeah.
You hit the button. It brings up all the keywords from your website, from your own content, which is really interesting. And then it shows you how many people search for those words. So we looked at those and we said, wow, 500,000 people are searching for this word, or maybe it's 50,000, whatever it is, but it's really kind of gives you insight into what words you tend to put a lot in your content that you want to be picked up by the search engines as well. So just a little how-to there.
So definitely, so after going to the point of actually getting that, using that tool, for instance, getting all the different things that people are actually searching for, what do you do next with that information?
So when you have keywords, when you've identified them, you use your keywords to search engine optimize your website. So all the content on your website it's search engine optimized. You want your website to be picked up by the search engines, right?
Definitely.
Anything you share out there, from your videos on YouTube to your social media releases to podcasts to anything that you're able to tag and put into a category and describe, that's what's going to get you picked up in a search engine. So we tend to, like even photos that you put on Flickr, those photos have your keywords, they have your categories, and you put descriptions. And that's what helps you to be found.
Definitely. I like
and
that. And
blogs too. All of your blog posts, same thing. So...
yeah, because it's kind of like you have all, instead of waiting for people to come to you, you go find them. There's conversation going on all these different websites, and if you can go directly to them, I guess that's more of the proactive approach to things.
Yes, because if you can go into the different communities, when you listen, because we do a lot of listening, we listen, and believe me, it goes beyond Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Flickr. There's so many different platforms. So when you identify what those platforms are, and you start listening by, tracking those keywords to see who's talking, you can identify who are the people driving the communities. Okay. So this is really interesting. Those key influencers, we used to always try to go to the media. so that we would share our stories with the media, and then the media would talk about us. Well, now today, in web communities, not only do you have the media who are there, but you have your consumers who are there. You have bloggers, those new influencers that you can connect with, who have anywhere from, 100 to could be hundreds of thousands of people that follow them. And some of these bloggers, these citizen journalists, we do a lot of connecting with them because they actually have the same clout as a New York Times reporter or a Wall Street Journal reporter or somebody from Forbes or Fortune. So it's very interesting now, the connections that you can make. And if you go one-to-one with somebody, that one-to-one can lead one to many, to many, to many. Because remember, it's this whole human network that kind of connects all of these web communities together. So your reach is so much farther, and meaningful too, because that's another thing. As you listen, you then learn what kind of content is going to ignite passion or make someone say, wow, I want to be a part of this company, or I've got to have that product, or they listen to me, they help me. I'm going to talk about them, whatever the case may be.
Definitely. And with all these different websites that are out there, I mean, you have daily new ones that are coming in. And trying to figure out which of the ones that are out there should you actually focus your attention on. So I'm trying to figure out, like, how do you make that decision? So now you know the keywords that you want to look out for. How do you know which of these websites or social media websites out there do you need to focus your attention on and throw away the rest, I guess?
I know, because there's so many conversations in so many different places. It is a function. It's always a function of resources, because let's face it, I'm a small company. We have limited resources. We've actually learned and everybody should do this, crawl, walk, run. You have to start small. It's so much better to be really good and listening and then able to engage with influencers and your community the right way. I'd rather do it in 2 places or 3 places than start off in 20 places and then not do well and not be able to keep up with it. Whatever pace you set, that's another thing. When you start interacting in a community, let's say you want to be on Twitter. So you have to commit to being on Twitter, to listening, to sharing, to having conversations, to engaging. If you stop, if that tweet stream goes dark, who's going to want to follow you? Who's going to want to talk to you? Who's going to want to share with you? So you look for the hotbeds of communication and where it really, really makes sense for your brand to be, and that's where you start. And you start small because you can always grow. If you find success and if you find influencers who talk about you, and all of a sudden you have all of these loyal brand advocates, and that leads to endorsements and coverage, and even the media starts to pick up on you because they're there as well, that leads to new business. And when you get that new business, guess what happens? You get to invest more resources into your social media, and now your listening can extend and your engagement can extend, and it's one great cycle.
Definitely. And okay, now we've figured out the websites that we're going to engage on. You said that you also want to find out the influencers on those sites that you want to maybe get involved with. How do you identify on those websites who exactly are the influencers? Because on one hand, you can say it's based on the number of people that they have as followers, for instance, on Twitter. But on another hand, you can say, okay, what is the level of communication between the few people that they have who are followers? So, like, how do we? Oh
my gosh, I love this question. We just did a panel at PRSA, the Public Relations Society of America, their international conference, all about the influencer. It's a tough question because the tendency is to say, gosh, I got to get to somebody with the numbers. I really have to hit those high numbers, those, that 100,000, that 200,000. Not necessarily. Influencers come in many different forms. And the numbers are a part of it. I guess they, when you use the technology, that's the first thing that the technology shows you. It's the numbers. If you use Twitterlizer, it's going to show you an influencer, and it's going to break it down into their impact and their clout and their generosity and sort of how they're sharing. And it's algorithms. But at the same time, I could say to you, there's so many different levels of bloggers that you want to take a look at. There's definitely A-list bloggers, and those were the ones that I mentioned before who are on the same level as your top reporters, your top-tier news outlets. But remember, that type of blogger, you're going to share a piece of information, and maybe it's a groundbreaking news story that that blogger wants. They take your story, they hit hard, and they move on to the 10,000 other stories that they're going to report on. However, if you find a blogger that's called the tastemaker or the trendsetter, that's somebody who doesn't have 100,000 followers. That's maybe somebody who has 15,000 followers on Twitter or more, maybe 5,000 followers on friends on Facebook, but that's somebody who is so passionate about an industry, about a topic. And if you interest them, they will take your story, your business story, from start to finish. They will follow you. They will talk about you. They will retweet you. They will blog about you. And they will give you, they'll give to you. They'll give to, you're giving to them in the sense that you're sharing really meaningful information that they love and they want to share with their network. But their thanks to you is sharing it with their network, which goes on and on and on. So that's a really important type of blogger. And then there's this other blogger who's your magic middle. And literally, they could only have 100 to 1,000 followers. But you can bet that every single one of those people will buy your products or your services because it's such a tight-knit community. So, there you have it. It could be a magic middle. It could be a story for an A-lister, but that's the key. It's determining what is that piece of information or content that's right to share with what people. And you can also now share right with your customers too. And how important is that when you have your consumers I use Twitter a lot, but talking to you on Twitter and you're helping them. Look at all the companies, Comcast Cares, and look at how, they sort of take customer service to a new level. Even the banks are doing it now. So, it's different. It's really, that influencer could come in many different forms. If you're listening and you're watching somebody and you're even, what I do, when I find an influencer, it's not just about how they interact on Twitter. It's going to check out their blog community. It's seeing, where else they're interacting and how many critical issues can I address for them. That's what makes them someone who I can build a relationship with.
Wow, I like the way you broke down the influencers from the top A-listers to right down to the very ones who are very niched in what they're doing. They don't have that many followers, but you can move more things, get more things in front of them and get them to do a lot of things with the things you send to them, as opposed to the A-lister.
Absolutely.
And another way I think of looking at it too is that the A-lister has everybody looking at them. Everybody's saying stuff to them. When are they going to find time to actually take what information you're sending and take it to the next level?
Right. It's probably very difficult for them to do that because it's such high volume. It's just like a reporter who, their email box is flooded. Same thing with the blogger. You email bloggers. If they like to be emailed, that's their preference, but they're getting hundreds of thousands of emails. Sometimes it's really hard to stand out. Unless you're that big brand that, they want to report on. As a smaller brand, you have to be pretty groundbreaking, revolutionary, or something that's so hot, so new, that's going to interest them to strike, hit hard, and then they'll move on.
Okay. And so now we've seen the 3 different levels of influencers. How exactly do you package that stuff that you want to send to them? How do you put it in such a way that they can easily run with it? That's what I'm trying to say.
I guess it depends on the person. So, for example, I'm a blogger. And people who that listen to me, they know they can approach me through my blog. They can get me through email. Sometimes the content is in the form of a link for me to check out something. It literally could be a social media release. Sometimes they send me news releases. Sometimes they send me ebooks. That's great. You know, they're listening because they know what I like. They'll send me an article. If you're on Twitter with me and you send me a direct message, so now we're talking privately when it's a direct message, and if I'm following you, then you're able to direct message me. If you send me a link to your blog and you say to me, Deirdre, you know, check out my blog post, this might interest you. You know, you've been talking a lot about social media policy development, or, you know, you've been talking a lot about influencers. If you like it, please consider sharing it. Well, if I like it, absolutely, I'm going to share it with my entire network, and I'm going to share it on Facebook, and I'm going to share it on LinkedIn. And all they had to do was they knew, just send me that little link. So everybody's different. It depends. It's a preference. You kind of develop a relationship where you know what it is and how that person wants to receive something and what kind of content makes them excited. And you do the same thing with the media. It's media relations, blogger relations. It's knowing people. That's what it is. It's people relations. It's always knowing what is it that person needs from me. How can I help them so that they can help their readers, their viewers, or their blog community?
So basically, taking the time to first of all learn about the person. You know,
definitely.
Influencers, I guess. Learning what are they passionate about, and being able to put something in front of them that will be in line with their core message in the first place.
Yes, I mean, I had one influencer say to me, you know, I guess because I was in his community and I was listening, and I did a lot of listening in his community first before I started actually talking and you know, reaching out to him and then talking to other community members. And I was sharing a lot of his information and blog posts on Twitter. And I had found a speaking engagement, and I asked him if he wanted it, if he wanted to participate. Just out of the sheer, I think you'd be great here, and I want to help you. You know, he then turned around and said, where are you on this globe? I really want to meet you. So that's how it works. You really are developing a relationship, and then hopefully you do meet in person, because that's how it works. You use these virtual connections so that you can actually get to the physical and do real business and make things happen. So that's what I even wrote a blog post on it, you know, moving from the virtual to the physical, because that is so important. We're still people, and we need all kinds of interaction. Face-to-face is great.
Definitely, and let's even stick to that point of moving from the virtual to the physical, because a lot of people, including myself, you know, we getting involved in this whole social media thing is. It took me a while to even get involved in Twitter, because for instance, I was like, why am I going to want to tell people what I'm doing? Right. You know, yeah. But it took me a while to get to that point, and I think kind of what I'm getting out of this whole social media thing is that, you know, it's just the starting point for you to take it from the virtual to the physical. So let's dive down into that. Like, how can companies who decide to go into social media, how can they take that interaction virtually and turn that into a physical interaction on possibly business?
Well, that's a really good question. And even though you always want to take the virtual physical, you still maintain the virtual. So the communities always have to be active, and wherever you are, you want to be an active member. So it constantly filters to the physical and business. What I like to do, and I've done sales training on social media. And it's interesting because when you think about sales, you think about the pitch, the seal the deal. But, in sales, you're networking, you're building relationships. Social media is a great forum for that, as long as you can remember, don't go in for the hard sell. Don't go in for the hard pitch. It's not about what you have to say. So as a person who is responsible for new business, it is literally answering questions. It's helping people. It's leaving your messages and your sales pitch behind, the minute you start engaging with someone and building your presence, your brand as a helpful resource, that makes people gravitate to you. If you are a salesperson, a new business development person in any company, and you're out there on LinkedIn, and you're in a group, and you're answering questions, and you're coming across really smart, you're not pitching your company, somebody gets to know you, you can then take it out of the group, and you can go into a private message. So if you're on LinkedIn, you start kind of emailing, messaging back and forth. You do the same thing on Facebook. You do the same thing on Twitter. You go to the DM. Once you get past that stage, emails start. They then have your email address. You have theirs. You start correspondence through email. The next thing you know, and for me, usually this is how it works, it's let's get together. Let's have a cup of coffee. Let's see how we can help one another. Same thing. So now you're in the physical realm. You're having coffee. You're building the relationship. And you can take that to the next step. And hopefully that leads to the pitch meeting, the callback, the win.
Definitely.
So it's a process.
Definitely. So let's give the listeners an example. Let's use me for example. We're all about trying to figure out, okay, how can we help people by providing them, entrepreneurs, by providing them with virtual assistants, which is personal assistants that work for them virtually, right? So let's say I want to engage with people who are looking for personal assistants online via Twitter. How, using what you said, how can I do that?
Well, I think you need to talk about productivity. I mean, productivity in the workplace is very, it can be very difficult. Your systems have to be well-oiled and fine-tuned. And there are a lot of businesses that don't have those systems in place. And I think back to, the beginning days of my business. And even when I was sort of eaten up by PFS, we didn't always have those systems. So if you can't pay people to come in and incur the overhead, the natural is to go to the virtual assistants. But your piece in this is not necessarily to talk about what you do, but more the productivity and tips and time savers and what makes things effective and how do systems run better so that somebody can look at you and say, wow, he's really offering me a lot of helpful information. What is it that you do? That's how it works. It's to listen to them, to give the meaningful. They rely on you as a helpful resource. And believe me, they'll ask you questions. I tend to give as much as I possibly can. So I don't care. I'm usually helping students with their papers. I'm helping grad students, do their dissertations. I'm helping people with, they ask me, hey, Deirdre, can we just chat about, I'm thinking about using this new technology because it might help with productivity. Sure, you give a lot because when you give, they realize that, you're providing them value. And when they need something and when they have the resources to reach out and they have the funds, they then turn to the resource and say, hey, you help me. I think you really could help me in this respect. So that's sort of how it works. That's what I would do.
And definitely, I recently started using a tool, what's this tool called now? Hootsuite, I think, to monitor certain keywords on Twitter. And I'll be honest, I've been tempted when I see someone saying, you'll be surprised how many times people say on Twitter that they need a personal assistant. And I go on there trying to, help, but sometimes it sounds like I'm trying to sell the service. I'm trying to figure out, okay, how can now someone actually say, I want a personal assistant on Twitter? But how am I going to now see that and now go there and start talking about how they can save time and be organized when they just told me they're looking for a personal assistant?
Share an article. Write a white paper. You need content. So when somebody says that, you're not going in to say, oh, well, don't do this because you could be using a virtual assistant. No, instead, you have like a little research behind you that even incorporates statistics and shows studies, and it's just it's a helpful resource to them. You're not saying one way or the other. You're just offering them something, and they can read and say, wow, I never thought of it that way. But you never pitched them. It was just, I'm just sharing. It's there for the taking if you want it. So it's a much softer approach. It really is. And sometimes, that's where public relations and blogger relations come in really well. Because think about it. When someone else is sharing all the great things that you're saying and that you're doing, chances are someone else is going to pick up on that. So it's a balancing act. Sharing content that will help people so that when they ask that question, it's not a hard pitch, but it's a useful resource. And having a lot of people talk about you kind of brings it all together in the sense that you're showing great content and you're credible because it's a third party. So, it works.
So maybe another way of saying that is when I see a stream like that where they're saying I need a personal assistant, instead of talking about a personal assistant and what they can do for you, trying to find out the main reason why they need the virtual assistant in the first place. Trying to go behind what they're saying and find out what is the reason why you need a personal assistant. Let's start from there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can definitely, get in conversations and talk about it, or you could write a paper on why people tend to need personal assistants and what are their options and, what's going to be the most cost effective for a business. So that right there would be a helpful tool to share and then have conversations about.
Man, I really enjoyed how you put it for me because I'm definitely going to implement that. And before I let you go, I want to see, in terms of, you're doing social media and PR, what trends are you seeing right now that you think we should be paying attention to as moving forward?
Mobile. Definitely mobile. Here I am with my Droid.
And here I am with my iPhone.
Right, see, it's attached to us. So, I just downloaded my Kindle application, right? So there's a Kindle for Droid. I tend to get my news. We're reliant. So I do believe that the more brands are interacting with us through our smartphones, that is definitely something to watch. I think we're going to see some, great advances in technology and, the semantic web and search.
Okay.
I don't even know what the next best platform is going to be, but I do know that location like a Foursquare or a Gowalla or Facebook Places. So I think we're going to see a lot of interesting things in the future. I don't think social media is going away. I think that brands really need to pay attention and be smart about it and measure. So if you're listening, and you're engaging, you need to measure and show how that's actually bringing value and ROI to your business. But I do think that it is going to be a lot in technology and how people are connecting and how media will continue to shift. Internet TV, where we'll be watching TV and we have internet on our TVs. It's all going to come together and blend. One big human network.
Definitely. Deirdre, I really enjoyed you coming on the show. Just before
Thank you.
I want to find out how can my audience get in contact with you?
Oh, okay. So they can always find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @DBreckenridge. So that's DBreakenridge. And you can always email me. I'm dbreckenridge@marketmango.com. And that's probably the best way to find me.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, so we're done.
So welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video. And I really want to know what exactly you think. I mean, if I suck and if I'm not doing a good job, I want to know. Because by your input and your comments, your suggestions, your feedback, that's how I'm going to improve on the entire package of what I'm sharing with you. I really want to improve so that you know that your time is well spent when you watch my videos. And if I do good on interviews and if you like certain things I do, please let me know so I can even improve upon that as well. And I want to thank you really because your time is well spent and your time is important to me, and I want to make sure that I continuously put this information in front of you. So I want you to join my community. And in order to do that, you need to click on the link that says get the free ebook, enter in your name and email, and you will receive as a gift from me my free ebook titled The Entrepreneur's Guide to Running a Business in the Cloud. The reason I do that is because I want to share with you that information. You can check it out and make use of it in your business. In the same vein, I will be sending you email updates every time I have new blog posts, as well as if I have new stuff that is not even on the blog, I want to share with you. That way we can stay in contact. One more thing. Before you go, I want to also let you know that if you are really serious about finding, hiring, training, and even working with virtual assistant, if right now you want to get that started, why don't you sign up for my free webinar where I share everything about the entire process. And you can get to do that by clicking on the link on the very top of my blog where it says sign up for the free webinar. Again, thanks for watching the video, and I hope to see you next time.